Spanish guitarist and composer Andres Segovia was one of the most influential figures for the advancement of the classical guitar during the 20th century. Segovia's approach to playing the classical guitar emphasized precision, expression, and tonal richness. Segovia is sometimes referred to as the father of classical guitar. But look at this slightly more modern version of the same song played by John Williams. Now, an even more modern version of the same song, played by Marcin. In this lesson, let's explore how fingerstyle guitar has evolved over the last 100 years, and the different genres that use fingerstyle guitar in its playing, and the very best players in each genre. Although also originating from Spain, the techniques used in flamenco guitar were vastly different than the techniques used for classical guitar, namely the use of percussion. Flamenco guitarists would strike the guitar using different parts of their hand. One of these is called golpe, where you use the third finger to strike down on this part of the guitar while you use the thumb to strike the strings. Another percussive element they would often use is this, using the back of the fingers to strike this edge of the sound hole, often used in combination with something called a rasgueado, fanning the fingers out to create this effect of multiple strummed guitars simultaneously. Let's check out this clip of Paco de Lucia, one of the most famous flamenco guitarists of all time, using some of these techniques. Now, in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, blues guitar was being developed in America. Of course, it has its roots from Africa, but the different styles of blues were named from the area that it came from. For example, Delta blues comes from the Delta region in Mississippi. It's characterized by something that I call monotonic bass, meaning the thumb just plucks the same root note of the chords as it goes. It's the beginning of what we call thumb and finger independence. Another type of blues that comes from the Piedmont region of the United States is called Piedmont blues. It's different than Delta blues because it has these alternating bass lines like I'm playing right now, and kind of has more of a bouncy feel to it, almost more of a joyous sounding blues. They would add the melodies on top of the alternating bass like this. Some of the best players you want to check out in Piedmont blues are Etta Baker, Reverend Gary Davis, and Blind Blake. Let's watch this clip of Etta Baker showing off her style. it's called hill country blues, comes from the northern area of Mississippi. It's different because of the way that they use percussion with their strumming and fingerstyle techniques. A couple notable players you want to check out for this style is R.L. Burnside and Mississippi Fred McDowell. Let's check out a clip of R.L. Burnside playing using this style.
Poor black man ain't got changing clothes. Girl got drunk, closed that door. Poor black man ain't got changing clothes.
Pattern picking, or something that a lot of people call folk finger picking. This is the easiest type of fingerstyle guitar, and a lot of people just call it finger picking because most of the time it's used for accompaniment, for a singer to sing along with. The simplest way to describe it is by calling it pattern picking, because that's what it is. You're just doing the same pattern with the right hand while the left hand changes through chords. Now it can get a lot more complicated than that, but this is a really good place to start for fingerstyle guitar because it gets you started with plucking the strings with your fingers and doing patterns. Some examples are Landslide by Fleetwood Mac or Dust in the Wind by Kansas. Bob Dylan also uses this technique a lot in his playing, as well as Joan Baez and tons of other players in the folk genre. One of the things that's kind of confusing about pattern picking is that it's often called Travis picking. Now, the term Travis picking comes from a guy named Merle Travis, who played fingerstyle guitar, but he never actually used pattern picking. He used something that was called boom chuck instead. Boom chuck sounds like this. It has the alternating bass, 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 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. But in between the bass notes, there's a chord hit, and all of that is done with the thumb. Slowly, boom, chuck, boom, chuck, boom, chuck, boom, chuck. So boom chuck is definitely a more advanced technique. Here's a clip of Merle Travis playing using his boom chuck style. Now, fingerstyle jazz expands upon classical finger picking or classical style by coloring up the harmony by using these fancy chords that we call jazz chords. So to learn this jazz style, you're gonna need to learn your basic jazz grips and the different ways that you can play them so that you can incorporate it into your jazz playing. And just by playing classical stuff but using these jazz harmony or jazz chords, it becomes jazz fingerstyle. One other important thing about jazz fingerstyle is playing jazz lines. And there's a few strategies for doing that. One is just this alternating with the thumb and index back and forth. So just alternating the index and thumb will allow you to play faster lines than if you were just using thumb by itself. Jazz players will also use a bunch of cool strategies like finger rolls. Another really common technique in jazz fingerstyle is something called walking bass. And that's where we're connecting chords with chromatic approach tones. there's a chord pop in the middle of the walking bass line. One of the best jazz fingerstyle players is this guy named Joe Pass. Let's watch a clip of him playing using these techniques. The best modern fingerstyle players from today are taking elements from one or more of the genres that we talked about in this video and enhancing it. They're modernizing it by adding percussion. Now there's two basic types of percussion that modern fingerstyle players are adding. One we call inside percussion, and that's where we're adding slaps and hits inside the playing area. So that means stuff like this, where you can do backhand rakes with a slap like this, slaps by itself. Sometimes percussive hits here on the guitar, or as we discussed, here on the sound hole. You also have players that are using kick sounds like this as they're playing. The second type of percussion is something that we call outside percussion. And that's where players are taking their hand and playing percussion outside the playing area of right here. So anything that you can play strings and do the percussion, that's called inside percussion. Anything that brings your hand away from the playing area, that's called outside percussion. Players that are using outside percussion are almost always using open tunings, so they can use combinations of hammer-on and pull-offs to keep the melody or the rhythm going while they add the percussion stuff. So the best modern fingerstyle players from today are taking elements from one or more of the genres that we talked about and specializing in that genre and enhancing it with some type of percussion. So in each of these genres that we discussed, there's new players coming out that are specialized in that genre. Let's take a look at how Justin Johnson has modernized Delta blues by adding some percussion. Let's watch this clip. Here's an amazing player named Marcin who's using flamenco techniques to enhance his modern fingerstyle. Let's check out his playing. And here's one of my favorites, Emil Earnbro, who uses a lot of jazz techniques to enhance his modern fingerstyle playing. Let's watch him.
Same thing with the bass line.
many other players that are using basic inside percussion techniques to enhance their classical type arrangements of modern day pop songs. They'll often also add jazz harmonies, so it's a combination of these different genres that's making it modern fingerstyle. But the main element is adding this type of percussion, either inside or outside percussion. Now, if you're an intermediate player and you think you want to specialize in fingerstyle guitar, or you just want to get better, I strongly recommend learning a little bit about each of these genres so that you can pick one to specialize in, or you can combine the genres to make your own type of style, like a lot of these modern day fingerstyle players have done. And that's exactly how I teach my private students to learn fingerstyle guitar. You need to get a really good foundation of all the different styles and techniques before you can start to master or specialize in one or two of them. And if you want to learn more about this, or if you want to learn a progressive approach like I teach to my private students, I've made a course called Your Fingerstyle Guide that does this exactly. It teaches mechanics from each of these genres, mechanics being techniques or the way that you're moving your body in each of these genres, so you can get a really good foundation of all these basic techniques. At that point, you can decide which one of these you want to specialize in. I really think that this is the best approach. It's also really fun, and it's just cool to know about the different genres and the different techniques that are used in these different genres of music, especially for fingerstyle guitar. So I hope you got something out of this video. I had a lot of fun showing you, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching.